Hello, and welcome to the Canadian Story, where we discuss what Canada is, what Canada could be, and what Canada should be.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Canadian Story. We are very excited for today's episode. Today, we are joined by Sid Vanderpool. Sid, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Zach. Looking forward to it.
Thank you for being here. So Sid, as we do with pretty much every guest who comes through, please give a background of who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so Sid Vanderpool was born in Kitchener, Ontario. Spent pretty much all my life here, except for when I was away training. And training for what, you would say? Well, my dad moved here from Trinidad. And when he was here, he ended up having, he had 4 sons, and I was the 5th. And when he was here, back then, the Jackson 5 was a really, really big thing. And so my dad bought us all instruments, much like probably in your family. He bought us a guitar, drums, an organ. What else did we have? A trumpet. And so he put us in the basement, and he kind of was like, all right, go ahead, play. Now, what I don't think he realized, because he was not a musical guy himself, was that we needed lessons. So we did play, but we played horribly. And so my mom kind of got upset about that we weren't very good. And so he liked watching boxing on television. So he's like, all right, here's what I'm doing. I'm going to train my sons to be boxers. And my dad just started training us. We had a garage, a carport, and he would train us, and we'd run before school, and he'd train us in boxing. And we just travel all around Ontario at the time in our van, and we'd go to fights. And I just remember one night we were in Toronto, and one of my brothers was fighting, and the promoter came to the back, smoky room, came to the back, and he's just like, we don't have enough fights. Does anybody have anyone else that could fight? And my dad looked at me, and he pointed, he goes, he'll fight. And I kind of looked up at him, I'm like, I will. And that night, I just put on my brother's trunks, and I got these gloves on. I got in the ring, and I just started throwing punches. And that night, I won my first fight. I was 6.5 years old. I fought a boy who was 9. And I guess at that point, my dad realized that I was ready to be a boxer. And so from 6 to 11, I boxed. And then at 11 years old, I did what every Canadian kid wants to do, and that's play the sport of hockey. So I played hockey for a while. I was really good at skating backwards, so they made me play defense. Didn't really find much glory in defense. People get upset if they scored on you, didn't get a chance to score any goals. So I did that for a few years. And then at 17, I decided to try boxing again, and I won the nationals. So I was the national champion my first year back, and I got to travel all around the world in boxing. And I finished 2nd at the Olympic trials for Canada, and I was 19 years old. And so at that time, I had a decision to make. All right, like I could wait around for the next Olympic cycle, and I'd be 23. So it was either a gold medal or gold Mercedes. Do I want to turn pro? I was like, I want a gold Mercedes. So I turned pro at the age of 19. And at that time, I went to live in the U.S. in Brockton, Massachusetts. And I boxed in the U.S. For pretty much all my fights, probably like 90% of my fights in the U.S. And I was North American champion. I fought for 2 world titles. I was ranked number 1 in the world. And, at the age of 32, I retired from boxing, and I started SydFIT, and that's where I am today.
Man, that is incredibly impressive. I'm sure you get asked this a lot, so I'm going to apologize for asking it, but I have to start here. How does one get comfortably acclimated to getting hit in the head on a regular basis?
Okay, that is a very good question. They don't. If you get accustomed getting punched in the head, I say this is not the sport for you. You should want to not get hit. That's the art of boxing, hitting and then not getting hit. So you really want to learn how to develop, and that's what I did. I learned how to develop really good defense, which allows you to enter the sport one way and hopefully exit pretty much the same faculties you entered into it as.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. It's a crazy sport. So when you decided, remind me, because there was a lot of information in that first little spiel. How old were you when you was it 17?
When I was 17 when I won the nationals, and then I turned pro at the age of 19.
Right. So when you turned pro, actually, let me frame the question this way. Before you turned pro, what was your training regimen like? And then how did that training regimen change when you turned pro?
Yeah. Okay, that's a good question. Uh, and there's layers to it. So I turned pro and I won my first, and I moved to Brockton, Massachusetts, because my idol, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, was from Brockton, and I wanted to be wherever he was. And so I got a contract with one of his trainers. And so I was in Brockton, Massachusetts, and I won my first 5 fights by knockouts. And then I lost my sixth fight. And at that point, I was like, I don't know. I don't feel like I should be losing. Like something's got to be off here. And so I heard about this thing called a training camp. And so I went to this training camp in Erie, Pennsylvania, and it was crazy. Like all they did was they lived in this environment with other fighters, and they had a coach that trained them full time, and they had a cook, and the promoter was all connected. And it's just like, whoa, this is really just one thing. It's just about boxing. I love it here. And I signed up there, and the coach's name was John Davenport. And John Davenport was an ex-Marine, recon, did 3 tours of Vietnam, and the last two are voluntary. And so what I learned was in my first 6 fights, I was an amateur fighting in the pros. When I went to training camp, I learned what it meant to be a professional boxer, a professional period. I could take that to anything. The discipline, the structure, the ability to understand that what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. And I hadn't known that kind of lifestyle until I went to a training camp and worked with John Davenport.
Hmm. So let's get into that. That sounds interesting. What sacrifices, what level of commitment, what amount of gusto does it take to be great at something like boxing?
You have to discipline yourself to so be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And like a prime example of that was our gym in Erie. When you walked in there, the heater was on. It didn't matter if it was winter or the summer. It didn't matter. The heater was on. It was 95 degrees plus in there. And what Coach Davenport was teaching you was, listen, you better be able to operate and execute at a high level, even when things are uncomfortable. And it was funny. We would have reporters come in, and they could only last in there for like say 5 or 10 minutes. They're like, "Yo, we're out. Like, we're gonna tell our story very quickly, and we're out," because they couldn't handle the heat, right? And so, just developing the discipline of learning that what things are going to get uncomfortable, but you still need to be able to execute at a high level.
Yeah. Did you train every day?
We trained 6 days a week. 6 days a week, we were training. Some days would be running, boxing, strength training. So there'll be multiple different types of training every day. And then along with just, I consider part of my training, my nutrition, my sleep, my other recovery, whether it's massage and those sorts of things. So, you're training up to 5 to 6 hours a day.
Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely interesting. Let's talk about nutrition because I find nutrition
Mhm.
very, very fascinating. What were you eating when you were training as a professional boxer?
So I would say there's like uh, peaking for the fight. So like when you're in that 6 week window when you're really getting ready for the fight, and then there's like maintenance, and both of them are different. So like when I was getting ready for a fight, my diet was pretty strict in terms of making sure I had a lot of protein, high fat, carbs as well, because you need carbs as an athlete. Like that's rocket fuel for an athlete. So it was really just cutting out the sweets. I mean, I love chocolate, so it was making sure that I wasn't putting in unnecessary things into my system. It was, just high level, high quality food, and in the right portions. Because I had a weight class to make, right? I fought at 160 or 168. So making sure that I wasn't getting too high above my weight class was always important.
Yeah. Which one were you fighting at?
So when I first turned pro, it was 160, and I did that for maybe 3 years, and then I moved up to 168, and for the other 10 years, I was at 168 pounds, super middleweight.
Yeah. So high protein. Were you counting how many grams of protein you were eating a day?
Not really counting. I just knew, like, a can of tuna was going to be this much. A Chicken breast was this much. Make sure eating fish. Pretty much like what the palm of your hand, right? That's one serving. So I was trying to get 2 servings in. In most cases.
2 servings in per meal?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's aggressive.
Definitely.
I was
training, right? Protein is part of keeping your cells and your muscles healthy. So tearing down, and that's the other thing. Like a lot of athletes, I think, have been convinced or media out there about anabolic, like build. Me, what I learned was it was really about making sure that I can recover. The better I can recover, the better I can train. I'm not able to put a lot of my nutrition really possible. Have a good and effective training day.
So when you were training as a pro, did you spend if you were to look back on your career, what would you say was your weakness? What were your challenges? Was it motivation for training? Was it maybe you didn't like the running? Was it cardio? Did you focus on trying to cover up your weaknesses, or did you try to capitalize on just increasing your strengths?
Yeah, so I definitely really focused on improving the areas where I was weaker. Like I said, defense, my jab, wherever I felt that, there might be a hole or a gap where I could do better, I kind of focused on those areas. And I know there's, again, I think maybe I was really big into Michael Jordan, and I just heard how Michael Jordan took his weaknesses and made them strengths. And so that was kind of my mindset, now, as a business owner, I probably focus a lot more on my strengths and really utilizing my strengths and just really pressing into those and then finding other ways to kind of, deal with some of the weaker areas that I have. But yeah, definitely as an athlete, I pressed into kind of making sure that, they say you're only as strong as your weakest link. So I just made sure my weakest link was here and not here.
Yeah. Do you think, so if you're focusing on your strengths in your business now, and we can talk about how that's going, but do you think, looking back on your career as a boxer, do you think if you had instead focused on strengths as opposed to trying to tampering down weakness, do you think you would have performed better or worse? Like, are the 2 concepts interchangeable, or is it always one way is the best way?
That's a really great question. Let me think about that for a second. So if I focused on my strength, okay, good. My weakness, I don't think it works in boxing. I don't think it works because let's say, I worked really hard on becoming a better athlete, so getting fitter, be more agile, all these things, and so I'm a very, very smart technical boxer. So if I had been really, really good technically and smart, but my conditioning wasn't as good, somebody that is not as good as me can come and beat me because they're just in better shape than me. So I don't think it works in boxing, actually. I think because your baseline, you got to be in good shape. At that level, everybody, has a decent amount of boxing skills. And so if you are not in shape and this person can outwork you over 12 rounds, they will get you eventually. So, yeah.
Yeah, they'll just wear you down.
Just wear you down.
So how did you split your training between actual time in the ring and exterior training, like running, like lifting weights? What was that ratio?
I'm going to say 60 to 70% of my time was boxing. That's what I was doing, boxing training. The other 30%, let's say, would be strength training and running, right? That's in terms of time-wise. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess like you can't discount the fact that actually boxing would be massively taxing at the very least on your cardio. I remember the first time I lined up to hit a bag, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to beat the living daylights out of this bag. And I was beat in like 20 seconds. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. Boxing is a great workout. And then again, when you talk about sparring, that's the next level. Did you ever get a chance to do any sparring?
I did once, and it was like one of the best things I've ever done. And I got it. It's interesting. It's like something that has never happened to me any other time.
Yeah.
But the first time I got smoked in the head, like
Yeah.
my whole body came alive, and I was like, let's go. I'm gonna hit you back. And I wasn't even like prepared for that in myself. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure I didn't get hit hard enough, but like to me, it kind of felt good. I was like, okay, let's go.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, not everyone is like that. I was just talking to a young fighter yesterday, and he was just like, when I'm fighting with somebody that is not as good as me, I feel really confident. But if somebody's a little better than me, I kind of feel like, I don't know, I'm a little bit scared. Like, like I don't want to, I don't know, it's just weird. And I'm like, well, there are going to be moments in that ring where it's going to be this, like, whose will is stronger? And it's just got to come out of you. Like, no, you're going to hit me. I'm going to hit you like that. And some people have it and some people don't. And, obviously you got it.
Yeah, I should really get into training. So do you think over the course of the 12 rounds, like, you kind of touched on this, but is it the boxer that can outwork his or her opponent that wins the match? Or like how deep does the technique go? Like how much push does that technique get you compared to just like being in better shape?
Yeah. Yes, and yes. Like, it's all of it, right? Like, that's what makes boxing so phenomenal, and or combat sports so phenomenal, is that styles make the fight. Like, sometimes the person that's in better shape can outwork a person that's more skilled. Sometimes the skill level is so much higher than the person that's in better conditioning. They can just outskill that person and not get affected by the conditioning. You gotta have an internal will and desire. I've seen people that with amazing skill just get made to like curl up in a little ball because the pressure was so intense that they were facing, right? It's all of it. You're like, when I'm talking about the highest level, you got to be in shape. You got to be smart. Your technique's got to be on point. You got to have the heart of a lion, like the chin of like granite. Like, that's what's, like when I see these guys at that level, and I've been there, it's just like, man, that's just crazy bones.
Yeah. What's an example of boxing technique? Because to the layman, it just looks like two people in a ring punching each other. But as I've kind of become interested in combat sports, there are massive amounts of techniques happening all the time. What's a good example of a boxing technique that you could give to help people better understand the more technical side of the sport?
Yeah. No, I love it. Good question. So, technique and strategy. All right. So when I throw a jab, which is going to be your lead hand, the technique is to come straight out and not turn it until you make contact. Because if you turn over right away, what happens is my elbow goes that way, my punch goes this way. My opponent is actually going to see my elbow and react to my punch before it lands. So I'm alerting them that the punch is coming. So straight line, turn over at the very end. It's the most efficient way to deliver that jab. That's technique. Strategy is, okay, before I throw the jab, I'm going to step over to my left, all right, outside of my opponent's vision, and then throw the jab. So that's just a strategy, right? Utilizing the technique within a certain way that creates an opening or catches your opponent off guard, right? So it's a combination of technique and strategy. And the higher you go up in the game, the more important strategy becomes, because everybody knows how to throw one. It's like we all talk the same language. It's except Mike Tyson, right? They were like 38, 66, 44, 21. But everyone else is like, listen, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Like, You know, now how are you going to utilize those punches to make them effective? Is the strategy, and that's when, you know, at the higher levels that becomes very important.
Yeah. How much does footwork come into play in the sport? You hear guys talking in the MMA world about footwork all the time. Is that heavy in boxing as well?
It is, and every coach and trainer will have their own point of view. For me, it's massive because I don't care how hard you can punch. Like, just for stationary, and you can punch really hard, but I move my feet and you have to follow me and you're off balance. Well, then guess what? I just neutralize your power just by moving my feet, because now I know you have no balance, right? So if you can move your feet, stay on balance to deliver the punch, that's the sweet spot. Mike Tyson, man, if you watch Mike Tyson's footwork, yeah, he punched hard, but his footwork, he was fast. He was like, oh, like, you know, it was, and he was on balance, obviously, because he delivered with power. So footwork is very important to get in and to exit. You don't want to be sitting in there, you know, scoring points and then getting points scored against you. That's not the art of boxing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So remind me, how old were you when you chose to retire, and what brought about that decision?
Yeah. So I was 32, at 39 fights, 35 wins and 4 losses and 23 knockouts. And I was 32, and I was just starting a family with my wife. And for me, my training camps then were in the Catskill Mountains. Sorry, the Poconos. We were in the Poconos, not too far from the Catskills, but we're in the Poconos. And that meant I would leave and go to training camp for 4 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks. And just at that point in my life, in my career, it was like, you know what? I just think I could do something else at this point, and I really want to dedicate myself to my family. And so, yeah, it was just time to retire.
Did you ever get knocked out?
I did. Like, well, I got knocked out, knocked down, and the referee counted me out in my second last fight.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so for me, that was like an indication. Um, you know, it was just, it was time. It was time to just, a trainer said to me one time, he said, Sid, when you are no longer going like this and you start to go like this, you want to maybe reconsider, you know, the craft that you're doing.
Mm.
And I had a great career. I had my wits about me for the most part, on most days. And you know, beautiful wife, you know, young family. It was like, okay, there's other things to be doing.
Yeah, for sure. So what are those other things? What are you up to now? You mentioned you have a business. What's that?
Yeah, so SydFIT Health Center, we just recently opened up our second location. And what we do is we just make people better. And it's, you know, wow, make people better. Like, that's a pretty broad statement. But making people better is a broad thing, because people will come into us. We have kids all the way from 6 to adults all the way up to 76. And what a 6-year-old requires versus what a 76-year-old requires is different. So we are invested in helping people become better. So like, if the 76-year-old needs mobility, we have a mobility class. If the 6-year-old needs confidence, our coaches are working with them on building confidence. We have competitive boxing. For those that want to compete, we have fitness boxing, just using the skills and the tools of boxing to get a great workout. We have a wellness area, which I'm sitting in right now, with massage therapy, osteopathy. And so really that is our goal, is to really find out what can help somebody become better, and then create the pathway, and then walk with them through it, right? And that's the difference between coaching and teaching. Teaching is, I can teach you something today. I can teach you, hey, you want to learn how to throw number 2? Watch, I'll teach you exactly how to throw 2. Done. Coaching is walking with somebody. So now I have to actually invest myself to be with them as they continue this process. And we love coaching people here.
Mm. How long have you been doing SydFIT?
This is our 15-year anniversary. So 15 years. We made it through a recession, made it through a pandemic, and you know, like, we're still fighting, we're still punching away here. We love it.
Nice. Okay. Okay. So what was running a fitness business like through a pandemic? Whew.
That was, listen, I'd rather do 2 12-round fights back to back than go through that again. Like, that was crazy. Lots of pivoting, it's new territory for the fitness industry, for the world. And I'm fortunate that I have a great business coach that right from the beginning, he said, this is not going to be 2 weeks. He goes, plan for 3 months. So make sure you get your stuff in order, to make sure that you're set up for at least 3 months. And the other great thing he said was, they keep saying we're all in this together, and we are going down the same river, let's say, but some people are in a battleship and some people are in a dinghy. He goes, don't be the guy that's in a battleship saying to the guy in the dinghy, see you on the other side, sucker. He goes, you want to make sure that you are helping people get through this as well, right? And so it's as challenging as it was. I believe we did a great job with our members. Well, I know we did because we've grown, twofold from where we were before. So, they obviously felt that we valued and supported them through it, and they've been loyal to us. And it's been good to be on the other side now.
So what did you do then? How were you the guy helping the guy in the raft next to you?
Yeah. Personally, reaching out. So our coaches, it was like, listen, reach out to your people. You don't even have to don't you have to sell them anything. Just reach out to them, see how they're doing, because some of them are going to be isolated and they just need someone to talk to, because they come in here 3-4 times a week and now they're not, right? And a big part of coming here is being social, right? And getting a right workout. So now they're probably not working out as much and they're not getting that social, aspect. So just reach out to them, like pick up the phone, call them, and talk to them. And, we found that was really great to be able to do that. And then providing the online platform. We did the Zoom, we were on the Zoom, and people just liked connecting and seeing other faces. And so just really making sure that we're stay connected with people.
Yeah. Here's something else interesting. You mentioned a business coach. Was that a decision you made at the beginning of your business journey? Or was it something that happened later? And what made you decide to do that?
Yeah. So no, it wasn't the beginning. It was probably after. So we've been together for 10 years. So it was like after, say, 5 years. 5 years, and I just felt like there was something missing. Because coming from an athletic world where it's about you have a goal, right? I want to be the best in the world. There's your goal. In business, what is the goal? What is really the goal? And so I didn't have a goal per se. So I just knew something was missing. So I started looking for a business coach, and I interviewed a few people, and I met this guy, Matt Sims. And man, what he told me in an hour just blew my mind. And the questions he asked me blew my mind. And we started working together. And I just talked to him yesterday, actually. Man, this guy, he's the worst. Every time I talk to him, he punches me in the gut. Pretty much punches me in the gut, right? He's very smart. He knows what he's doing. He's worked with over 100 business companies. So he's been under the hood of all these organizations. So when he speaks to me, he's talking about, he hasn't built one business. He's helped 100 businesses be successful. And I love being coached. I have a nutrition coach, a strength coach. So I love being coached. I love having people that their whole job is to make me better. Right. And so a business coach has been a tremendous value to me and my team.
So you have a business coach, a nutrition coach, and a fitness coach currently.
Absolutely. Yes.
That's amazing. That's so cool. I think that's incredible, because you're obviously a guy who's always aspiring to be better. What do you think drives that motivation?
What's the alternative?
Hey, great question. Be worse?
What's the alternative, right? I not everyone's wired like that. I get it. I really do. Because sometimes my messaging may come off hard for people who are not wired that way, and I get it. I'm just one of those people that's wired that way, and I'll speak, and I'm empathetic, and we have a great inclusive environment here, but for me personally, like, hey, I want to run a marathon. Okay, train, run a marathon. I'm going to be doing a sprint triathlon in September. I don't know, I've never done one, but it keeps me pushing because I've done the opposite. I've tried to not do anything. I was like, you know what I'm going to do this year? I know what the behaviors are to good health. I'm just going to do the behaviors. I'm not going to, because I always set a goal for the year. I'm going to run a marathon or do whatever. And I was like, let me just do the behaviors. I'll work out here, work out there. I won't track anything. It was terrible. It was the worst year. Like it was bad. So I learned that, you know what, if you have a goal, then you'll put systems in place to achieve that goal, and it'll help develop discipline. Discipline's never a bad thing. And so that's kind of worked for me.
Mm, yeah. What's your training regimen like right now?
So, well, fortunately, you asked me on this is a good time to ask me that, because so I walk a lot more. So the pandemic has got me walking. So I walk at least 12,500 steps every day. That's my goal, and I hit it. So walking, I've been boxing, which I was not boxing before. I'm in a gym all day, and but I never really boxed. Now I box. I do about 30 minutes 3 times a week. I'll run 1K 1 day a week, so just 1K as fast as I can go. And then recently, so last 3 weeks, I've been training with my son. He's 16. He wanted to start doing strength training, get buff for the girls. Like, whatever the motivation is, I'll take it. So he's like, and Dad, not some other trainer. Like, you're going to train me. Like, yeah, okay, we got this. So I've been working with him 3 times a week. We train together. And then, like I mentioned, I got to that sprint try in September. So I started swimming on Sunday. So 750 kilometers on a Sunday. But this is recent. Before that, it was just get 45 minutes in every day. So 45 minutes, either boxing, running, strength training, just do 45 minutes. That was my thing before.
Yeah. Why are you walking instead of running? Because I've heard a lot of people kind of debate over which might be better for you.
Yeah. I had a calf issue. And so I just wanted to do something. And so I just started walking. And then I was like listening to podcasts, you're just hanging out. And I was like, you know what, this walking thing's not so bad. Like, it just allows me time to, to clear my mind and whatnot. Running did the same. Running is good too, but running is a little bit harder on your body. It is. It's a little harder on your body. So, and I liked it. And so now I've just, I'm stuck with it.
Yeah. I definitely yeah, it's tricky. I recently got back into running. I was doing like 2K runs, like nothing crazy. And then I was up to 3K, and I was like, I felt good, like right away, like after, a week or two. And then I did a 5K, and man, my knees were like shot for 3 weeks, and I couldn't. So I did the 5K, and my knees really hurt. I was like, oh, that sucks. And then I took a day off, and then my knees felt okay. So I did a 3K, and then they were shot for 3 weeks. And so I'm just getting back into it now. But one of the things that I'm trying out right now that I'm actually really enjoying is I started getting up at 5 a.m. And the first thing I do is I go for the run I'm doing right now is about 2.75K, just under 3. And I do that in like 16 minutes. And I'm just trying to do it every single day and just get that locked, locked, so it's super, super good. And then I'll try to push it further from there. But it's a tricky thing, because I'm turning 30 this year. I can't just it's a new reality for me that I can't just do whatever I want with my body and suffer no consequences.
Yeah. No, for sure. And one of the things that I've taken up too over the past 2 years is mobility training, right? So flexibility is just holds, and that's what you consider flexibility, right? How flexible can I move this? Mobility is through the range,
All right. Can I move it through the range? All right. So I've been working a lot of mobility because a lot of people injure themselves because they're not mobile. It's not a flexibility thing. It's just when load it exceeds the capacity, injury happens. So I'm moving the load of my body moving forward exceeds the capacity of my knee. Oh, injured. All right. So learning how to move your body, control it through the range so that if something were to happen, you're not going to exceed the capacity. So I've been doing a lot of mobility training, and it's been amazing. Obviously, with mobility, flexibility increases as well, but that's helped me a lot.
What's an example of mobility exercise that you do?
Yeah. So one that I do is just trying to see when I will fit on the camera here. So most of them are like on the ground. You'll say elephant walks. That's going to be a hard one. Oh, I know. So it's like you take your fingers. Let's say you take your fingers and you put them underneath your toes, and then you just lift and try and straighten your legs out. All right, and then you come down and you come all the way up. Oh, an even simpler one, but most people can't do, is you just take your you just in your socks, you just squat down like you're just squatting, all right, and just keep your feet flat on the ground. Most people can't do this because their hip mobility won't allow them to do that, right? So just squatting there, you should be able to sit like that for 10 minutes. If your quads start burning and your calves, when that's a lack of mobility, all right, lack of a range of motion. So you should be able to sit in a squatted position easily with your feet flat on the ground.
Huh. I bet you I couldn't do that. Not for 10 minutes. I'm sure I could get there, but I don't know if I could stay there for 10 minutes.
Yeah. So that, like, before you run, hip mobility is massive because that's the stuff that, when people have knee issues and back issues, it's usually hip mobility. So just simply, doing that, getting that squat position, and just do a minute. Just sitting there for a minute. You can rock side to side a little bit, open your hips up. Oh man, it's gonna be great for you.
Yeah, I started stretching before I'm running now, which is good because I wasn't doing that before. But then when you start getting hurt, you're like, well, okay, I guess I'll stretch.
Right.
But that kind of makes sense to me. And it's interesting you say back and knees because I do like my lower back's okay, but I get like a little bit of soreness in my lower back when I do a bunch of running. And so would you say that that's probably a hip mobility thing?
Yeah, for sure. And anytime you want to come, so we do a class on Saturday mornings, and also a little bit early, Saturday mornings at 7 o'clock, 7 to 8:30. You can come join us, no charge. You come out, I'm telling you, man, so not only are we doing the practice, we're teaching and coaching. And so you'll walk away and you'll be like, okay, great. I got stuff that I can do now for, on my own. Like that's what we want to make sure, because doing it once a week is not the thing. Like I do it every morning. I do 10 minutes every morning of things that I've learned in this class, right? So, and that's what's the game changer, things you do daily, right? It's what you can do daily.
Yeah, huge. I will definitely take you up on that. Where are your locations?
Yeah. So we're in Kitchener at 1253 King Street East in Kitchener, right off the expressway on your way to downtown Kitchener. And then we're also at 5 Church Street East in Elmira. That's our newest location. It's a studio. And so there we have towel service and a sauna, and it's just the platinum experience.
My dream is to own a house one day that I can put a sauna in. Like I want to be an everyday sauna guy.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. We grew up for me, as a kid, we had a sauna in our basement, and we just saunaed, like that was one of the things we did. And I just love it. Saunas are amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what do you think the number one lesson is that you've learned over the 15 years that you've had your business? Like if you had to take away one nugget of wisdom from running a business and helping people, what would that be?
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, there's so many. I'll just pick one. Um, so as a business owner, for me, one of the biggest, again, the bottleneck, the ceiling is always going to be the owner, the person that's in charge. And so the more that you can grow yourself and keep yourself accountable. So again, if I'm the owner, who am I accountable to? Nobody, right? It's just me. So having a business coach, like that's massive. Like to have a call every week to know that I'm going to have to talk about my numbers every week, it keeps me accountable. Because if it was just me, I'm like, oh, I didn't hit my number this week, or I didn't, reach this. Who cares? Nobody else knows, right? But when you have somebody else you can be accountable to, now things are going to start to happen. And again, it comes down to how serious are you. And some people just want to, have a hobby or whatever. But if you're serious about making change, and so this business is about making change, it changes people's lives. So for me, I take it very seriously, because the more people that I can enroll, the more lives we're going to impact. And that means something to me. So that's why I want to be serious about the way I run this business.
That's cool, man. That's really, really cool. You're making me think I might want a business coach.
I got one for you.
I hear he comes highly recommended. Okay, so I have like one more question for you before we let you go. I'm hypersensitive to nutrition. So you talked about your nutrition when you were training to be a professional boxer. Yeah. Has that nutrition changed much? Like, what's what are your daily eating habits?
Yeah. So I'm playing with it like most people. All right. So big change for me. 2 years ago, I did a gut health. Protocol. It was 90 days. No, hold on. Before I did the gut health, I did hormones. So I did a hormone. He's my nutrition coach. So what we did was we focused on hormones. So all the neurotransmitters. I mean, when you start to understand how much what you eat affects the way that you interact with the world. So here's a small one, right? It's like praying or taking time to give gratitude before you eat. All right. Like I used to like drive and eat. Well, you're either in a state of rest and digest or a state of fight or flight. So, when we were out in the wild and things were chasing us, do you think that's the time where you're going to digest food? No, you're fight or flight. You're not going to digest your food that way. So even just taking a simple, 10 seconds to just breathe and give thanks for your food is going to affect the way that your body accepts that food. Now I'm going to be in a place of rest and digest, right? So little things like that. But so that program really changed because I realized it's not just about what you eat, it's how you eat, it's the timing you eat it at. There's, the way that, and that's why I have a nutrition coach, because there's so much science behind it. So yeah, that was big. And then the gut health, which I understood my pancreas was not operating at the full function. So just healing that and getting that to operate really well. So making sure my organs are fine. And my energy levels, my recovery, all these things have been amazing. I turned 50 in September, and so I want to make sure that I'm in the best health possible going into my 50s.
Man, you do not look like you just turned 50. You look great, man. I love this. Like, you obviously consciously think about your life and try to calibrate it so that you can be optimal in every area that you operate in. Have you always been like that? Is that something you intentionally developed? Is that new? Is it old? What made you decide to do that?
Yeah, I think it's just over time, right? Just over time. Because when I was in training camps was a time when, again, you're eating correctly, you're boxing, but then there's downtime. And so in the downtime, what are you going to do? Like for me, what I did was I thought about a lot of different things. And so I'm very comfortable being alone and reflecting. Like reflection is massive. And I'm trying to do more of that actually. Because if you don't reflect, then you don't have time to assess. And if you don't assess, how can you then make change? Whether it's, you know what I mean? Like, so I'm very reflective, and I always say to people who ask me a question or say to me, I say, well, let me meditate on that. All right. And I'll just throw it around in my head for a little bit, and I'll meditate on it. I'll be like, oh, okay, well, here's what I'm thinking. So it's been a process over time. It's a part of my personality. But yeah, I mean, I'm always looking for different little things to kind of just continue to improve. Relationships with my wife, with my kids. I'm always looking like, how can we make it just a little bit better? Because a little bit better is better than just staying the same, right? And so, as we age, I believe, like, it's a belief, right? Like, I believe when I'm 60, we're gonna have another conversation, and I'm gonna be like, hey, I'm doing a little bit more, a little bit better, I'm feeling a little bit better. Like, I love my wife a little bit more. My kid, like, I believe that. Because I said when I was 40, I go, when I'm 50, I'm gonna be like, yeah. And guess what? Turn 50, and that's what I am. Guess what? When I'm 60, it's gonna be the same thing, right? That's what I believe.
Yeah, that's amazing. Are you a reader?
Audible. I do Audible books.
Okay.
A lot of Audible books. Yeah.
Okay. Have you read The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson?
You're the second person. No, I have not read that. You're the second person in a week that mentioned that book to me.
That's funny. You should read that book. I mean, it's basically what you just said. It's basically it basically details out, if you just make the littlest improvement every day, and you put that dedication across the course of your life, what you can do is exponential, right?
Yeah.
Right?
And that's the thing, right? Consistency over a long period of time. And I know you probably got to go, but I'll finish up with one story. My manager at one point was Stan Hoffman. He's no longer with us, but Stan Hoffman, he was a manager. He managed 50 world champions over the life of his career. One of them was Hasim Rahman, when Hasim Rahman beat Lennox Lewis. And so after you finish weighing in for your fight, you have about an hour or you have a day. And so you have time to spend time with your managers and whatever. So I remember sitting with Stan, and I was just like, Stan, like, man, you're so successful. Like, I asked him two questions. I'll never forget that day. I said, if I get into boxing, like, and I want to be on the other side, like, how do you find a good manager? And he goes, Sid, you don't. He goes, good managers find you. I was like, whoa, okay. And then the other thing I asked him was, I was talking to him about how he made it. Like, how did you make it to this point, Stan? Like, he goes, listen, pick something that you're good at and just stick with it. And over the duration, a long period of time, you will have success. He goes, like, look at me. He goes, I've been doing this for 25 years, right? It wasn't until I was 16 years in that I finally got a world champion. And then another one, and then another one. Imagine if I'd done 5 years here and then switch another, I think I'm going to go and try this and try that and try that. He goes, pick something that you're good at and stick with it. You'll get better, and you'll get the results, year after year after year. And I was like, and that's what I did. I could have jumped out of the fitness industry, when things got tough. I was like, no, man, like, just stick with it. You love it. You're good at it. And here we are today.
Yeah, I think that's something that's underappreciated today. And I don't know if it's a today thing or if it's always been this way, but I think about that all the time. And the way the angle I kind of come at it from is, if I were to look at my life and all of the best things in my life, not a single one of them came easy. Only the stuff that was hard is the stuff that I cherish, right?
Yeah.
And people get themselves into situations where they're doing something, and one day they might feel motivated, and the next day it might feel hard, or 1 year they might feel motivated, and then 6 years down the line they hit a roadblock that's really, really hard.
Yeah.
And I think it's a fault to not just decide to power through those things, however you might have to do it, because only the good things are hard. And so if you come up against something hard, Jocko Willink talks about this, his mental response to anything that's hard. I think it comes from his time in the SEALs. He has this motto that he says to himself all the time. He just says, good. Oh, you don't want to do this workout? You're tired? Good. You'll get better. Oh, you don't want to deal with that relationship? Good. You're going to have to. Oh, you don't want to have to put in the hard work to make this happen? Good. You're going to get stronger. Good. You know, people don't look at challenge as being good. They look at challenge as something they want to avoid. And I think that if we build in this mentality of being comfortable with the challenge, we might all get further along, you know?
Well, and you said it perfectly though, too, right? Like all the good things that you think about in your life is like, oh, there was a challenge that was associated with that. And we many times just want to think about what happened at the end, like the good time, right? But it's like, no, it was the challenge that brought that. So it's just reconditioning yourself to be like, challenge? Ooh, challenge equals good because I know what's coming at the end. Challenge, opportunity. Yeah, right? And it's just, and I do that. And I know my athletes are probably like, this guy's strange. Like, we're in a tournament and they got the toughest guy first or toughest girl first. I'm like smiling. They're like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, this is the exact challenge that you need to make you better. Like, challenge is good.
It is good. It is good. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, Sid, I do have to run on to my next call. You just got out of a board meeting and I'm about to run into one. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, man. Why don't you just plug one more time your business, where you are, any websites or whatever. Can people follow you on social media?
Perfect. SydFIT Health Center, 1253 King Street East in Kitchener. You can find us online at sydfithealth.ca. You can find me at Boxing by Sid on Instagram, also on LinkedIn as well. So you just type in Sid Vanderpool and you can find me, and I'd love to connect with you.
Amazing. Well, I look forward to seeing you in your gym.
Yeah, I look forward to it, man. Definitely got to connect. I'd love to have you come by for a visit.
Yeah, I definitely will.
Okay,
all right,
Zach.
Take care, man. I really appreciate your time.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to The Canadian Story. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at The CAD Story. That's The CAD Story. If you enjoy this podcast, please share it with your friends and family. Let's work together to remind Canadians how great our country is.